Hey, I made another bracket. Today I have a little bit of time to work on the yellow car too. Today I just want to make a bracket that's going to help support this fuse box a little bit better. It's a little wobbly right now. The engine is still super dirty from my big road trip. I haven't really cleaned anything but the exterior. So forgive the mess, but I do want to make that bracket and kind of clean up as I go. I think I mentioned before, I'm gonna have to drop the engine to fix a transmission leak. So it's gonna be a lot easier to clean once the engine's out. And then we'll also extend that bracket to support the fuel pressure regulator. That's the device that routes the unused fuel back to the tank. And right now, things are supported up on the wall, but not to my standard. I think a combo bracket that supports this and the regulator at the same time would work really well. So I haven't drilled any new holes in the side of the car here. The factory fuse panel has been deleted, and now we have kind of a smooth surface here to create a new bracket, and there's plenty of existing holes to pick up from, so we shouldn't have to drill anything. We need to be careful because the battery's still connected, so there's some live terminals here, so we'll be careful. I also noticed I forgot to plug up this hole, and so some road debris from the tire came right through here and started dripping, so we want to make sure that's closed up, or we'll use that hole for the bracket, I'm not sure. But we don't want to get water on the back of these terminals, even though this is all sealed. So this is not labeled, and the documentation doesn't actually show what's what. So this is the Eaton fuse box. So I need to do some troubleshooting to find out which relay is for the fuel pump. Well, that's the fuel pump, but it's not shutting off. So it's probably, the first relay is probably for the ECU. This is what the relays look like. Yeah, now the fuel pump is not making any noise, but the gauges are working. So that tells me the ECU is working. So relay number 2 is the fuel pump. So I'm kind of guessing here, I can double check later, but I'm guessing that this is the ECU, this is the fuel pump, this is probably the fuel injectors, this is the ignition coils, and then this is probably for the idle control valve or something like that. But I'll verify all these and label it on the inside of the cover. It's currently just blank. This is roughly what I'm thinking of. Pick up this hole right here and this mounting hole right behind that. So I'll push that plug out. We'll find a way to put a captive nut on the back side, but that's the ground stud that is pre-existing in the car. So that should hold the regulator. I'm gonna take a look at the data sheets for each of these components, this fuse box and also this regulator. I'll get the hole patterns, and then I'm going to make my template a lot more refined, and then we'll cut it out in metal. Okay, this is my second iteration on the template, and this is just made out of plastic. I actually cut it on my laser cutter, but I had to make some changes on the bottom. So I'm gonna pick up this hole here with this hole here. I just missed it in the CAD system. And then this hole here will go through that. So that basically gets it to there. And then I'm gonna use some standoffs to keep this thing off of the panel. So this hole here, those 4 holes will support this with some aluminum standoffs or even some plastic standoffs right here. This piece does not need to be grounded. It's already grounded in other ways. And then the regulator, I think I got it pretty close. It's gonna get supported just like that. I may create a little more clearance on this hose because that's close. So now let's make it out of aluminum. Okay, with any luck, I think that's gonna do it. The laser scribed the actual cut line, and then I made this plastic template to go inside the cut line by 3.5 millimeters or 3.25 millimeters, so that my plasma cutter can just cut this outline and the internal stuff, and then I'll just do the holes with my hole punch or a drill, either way. But yeah, this should make cutting it a lot easier. Ideally, the laser would cut all the way through this, or I send the file to send, cut, send, or Oshcut, or any of those places. But I want to get this done today, and I got to bend it as well. So let's just save some money and get it done right now. I'm going to use my snips on the more delicate areas because we don't want to accidentally trim that all the way off. That's a little tab that bends down to create a little more strength on the corner. And this is a little hard to cut with snips. This is 16th inch, 060 aluminum. So that little square is a bend relief. We'll cut that with probably just a drill bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and mark these holes with a center punch, and then we can punch them out. Things are pretty close, except for right here. I think it was operator error. I think I slipped around, or maybe the clamp was right there. So we'll need to open that up to M8. But some of the other holes are quite a bit smaller. So let's change the punch and get the smaller ones done. We'll use a step drill on the M8 guy. You know, really not too bad, considering, you know, the black is very high tolerance laser cut, and the aluminum is, you know, plasma cut, and I think it came out pretty good. It's pretty even on the edges. Tiny little reliefs right there. Normally I'd put that press up on the table, but for just one bend, I just kneeled down on the floor and basically got this bent. This is 50-52. You cannot bend 60-61. So this is a pretty sharp bend. It does not crack if you have the right radius and you have the right material. So this turned out pretty good. I'm just gonna bend this one with pliers. The thought here was that this is going to create a little strengthening corner here, because that pressure regulator has a lot of hoses on it, and it could easily maybe bend this or something. So Let's just strengthen it and put a little weld on the end. I forgot to follow one of my welding rules, which is to leave this piece extra long. I should have wrapped it all the way up to here, welded it as far as I could, and then cut it off. Because what happens when you get to the end of the weld, it creates this like crater right here. But it's good enough. I'm going to let that be. This is going to be on the back. So it just creates a lot more stiffness here, which is what I wanted. So of course, I only have one of these aluminum standoffs. That's what's gonna hold this up to here. So I need to get more of those, and I need to reverse the direction of this hardware because we can't have hardware poking into the backs of these wires and stuff. Plus, I'll probably put a piece of plastic across the bottom at least, because that's where the power input is on this bus box. The regulator's in a good spot. It's secure, it's nice and stiff, way better than before. I gotta cut this old bracket off because it has a hole through it, which is kind of a dumb idea. But what do you think about the color? I am considering painting this yellow. So it kind of looks like it belongs in the car as opposed to an extra add-on piece. I can color match, I have extra color, so I can make the whole thing yellow. And that way there, when you look from the side, it doesn't look like it's an add-on. It looks like it's just one thing. Or I could obviously Cerakote black or powder coat black, and that would probably look good too. So let me know what you think.